Dog.
Word.
Chris Brown's
Doesn't
better
matter.
than
Bitches was falling off. They fell out off the visual.
Chris Brown don't do that.
It's a fact.
Mike pull
don't
up.
do that.
He don't
That
say
has nothing
nothing
to
yet.
do about
The
dancing.
nigga don't have a microphone yet. He didn't make a sound, a noise, or nothing. He look at the bitch and they faint.
Yeah.
They back Mike out. Mike, like he was some form of weapon. They back Mike out and they died. And there's people, my nigga, there were
right.
actual people that
It's a
died
fact.
from
That's a fact.
seeing Michael Jackson.
That's a fact.
Look it up. There's no other niggas that did. They died from seeing Mike.
He's a one-on-one.
They died. Listen to
I'm
what.
on the
Listen to
same
what I'm
page as
saying.
you, though.
You're not.
I am.
They looked at Mike and Medusa. My nigga died.
Medusa's funny.
Niggas died off the visual of Mike.
Yeah.
So I can say
You
Chris
can't.
Brown. Hold on. I can say Chris Brown's a better dancer than Mike.
No.
I can say Chris Brown is as talented
Fam,
as.
if he would have
hold on,
flipped,
singer.
if he would have flipped, they would have bombed the stadium.
know.
He couldn't
I know.
flip. He was limited in what he can do. That's why he just moonwalked on niggas.
It was
Pause.
too much.
If he would have flipped, he would have died. He would have died in there. It's too much. He would have combusted in the shit.
Too powerful.
It's wild. Come on, my nigga. That nigga's levels was 999.
Too powerful.
That nigga's sliders is all the way up.
Rock
It's
the play.
On that historic trip to the moon.
Vous aviez déjà vu ces images?
Non, jamais.
Est-ce que vous savez ce que c'est ça? C'est la neige. Dans les pays froids tombent des morceaux blancs très glacés et après les hommes glissent dessus. Vous connaissez lui? Le chef, il le connaît?
Non, on ne le connaît pas.
Zidane, c'est un joueur français qui est un des plus grands joueurs de foot au monde. Je voulais savoir si Zidane allait jusque dans vos tribus. Ben non. Et vous le connaissez, lui? Vous savez qui c'est?
Michael Jackson.
Comment vous savez?
Je l'ai vu une fois à la télé à la ville.
Il y en a combien qui le connaissent? Les vieux le savent?
Non, on ne le connaît pas. Jamais entendu parler.
On dit que c'est la première star planétaire. On dit que n'importe quel endroit dans le monde, quelqu'un connaît Michael Jackson. Donc même dans votre tribu, les jeunes le connaissent.
On that historic trip to the moon.
Chris Brown is a better dancer.
This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, in verse 19. It says, Behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee, and I will save her that halted, and gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. First offering of all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Kodash. The honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone that teach and rule well, and as always, peace and salutation to the elect. All right, so Brother Benaiah from the Great Millstone Dollars branch. It's going to be a quick lesson. But as you can see from those clips, all right, you had the first one, where Jake was debating, the fame of Michael Jackson. All right. And, they was comparing him, Chris Brown to Mike, which Chris Brown is a, talented, he's definitely a talented, star, so-called star in these times. But his fame is not on the height of Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Because like like dude was explaining, here it is. People would actually faint and pass out. This Michael Jackson had to have ambulances at his concert. We all seen those clips of him popping up from under the stage and and landing. He just standing there and people just screaming and passing out. He ain't even moved yet. Like the dude was explaining. You see. Then you have the next clip of the Amazonian tribe. See if I can wind it a little bit. Of the Amazonian tribe where you had you had Esau showing them all all sorts of things like the moon landing. He was showing them people skiing. Here it is. This tribe didn't even know. They didn't even know what snow was. He was showing them a famous soccer player. All right. They all of them didn't know they didn't know about any of those things until he played Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And then as you seen from yourself, all the youngsters everybody knew who Mike was. You know what I'm saying? So that shows you the reach of this man's fame on this side. You see, and that's even how famous Michael is. That's nothing compared unto the fame that Yahweh ultimately first and foremost Yahweh Shai is gonna have, and also those his elect. All right, those 144,000 men from each tribe that followed him that you read about in Revelation chapter 7. All right, because even Ezra, they're going to be the stars of this new age. You know what I'm saying? That we're getting ready to transition into. You see, so all this fame, all that fame that Michael had on this side, even this man is dead and he's still outselling, you know, a lot of these stars are still alive and making music. You know, so that shows you, you know what I'm saying, that man was famous. You know, everybody wanted to be Mike, but even that fame is not going to compare to what the fame that the elect is going to have in the kingdom of heaven, man. You see, and all this stuff, all this fame on this side is going to be forgot about. All right. It talks about that in, let's get it in Isaiah 65 real quick. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse 17. It says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth." It says, "The former shall not be remembered nor come to mind." You see? So in the kingdom of heaven, nobody is going to be thinking about, you know, Michael Jackson. Nobody's going to be thinking about Denzel Washington. You see, or any of these celebrities that our people look up to, these so-called stars of this age. You see, nobody's going to be thinking about that. You see, the stars, the true stars, all right, are going to be the elect, man. You see, of course, with Yahushua at the head, all right. And like I said, even our forefather Esdras, he's seen it, man. You see, let's go to it real quick. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 2, and I'm gonna start at verse 44. It says, "So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on immortal." Now, what is the mortal clothing? All right, this flesh, you see. It says, "and have put on immortal." What is that? That changing that Paul spoke about. All right, you shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye. You see, scriptures talk about us receiving new bodies. All right, when it talks about the covenant of the Lord putting the laws within us, that's us being changed into something, you know, new. All right, a new creature, man. You see, but going back, it says that put on immortal and have confessed the name of God. Right, showing you how important the name is. All right, you have camps that saying the name is not important. You know, it says, "Now are they crowned and receive palms." Then I said to the angel, "What young person is that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hand?" Right, you see. So the angel, Esdras is seeing the glorified bodies. You see the elect being crowned by Yahushua himself, man, and those glorified bodies. You know, it tells you in 1 John that, you know, now we call the sons of God, and yet not appear what we shall be. But we know that when he appear, we shall be like him, because we shall see him as he is. You see, showing you that we're going to be changed into something new. And Ezra is getting a vision. He's seeing it. All right. And he's seeing the glorified bodies. He's seeing Yahushua. You see, because look how long it's been over 2,000 years, man, since Yahushua was on the earth. All right. And Ezra is seeing and saying, look, man, this is a young man, showing you that we're not going to grow old in the kingdom, man. And that's a part of the definition of immortality, man, too. You see, deathless. You see, growing old. All that's going to be done away with, man. You see? But it says, verse 47, it says, "So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of God, whom they confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord." You see? So Esdras commended those men. You see? And these are going to be the elect, are going to be the stars in this new world, man. You see, because like I said, when you go into the definition of immortality, all right, as you can see, it says deathless. It says endless life, also imperishable fame. You see, meaning a fame that never dies, man. You see, because like I said, Mike, you know, he got fame on this side, but when this world is done away with, so is that fame. You see, Michael Jackson he's not going to be talked about in the kingdom, man. You see, what's going to be talked about? The elect, all right, and those in their walk on this side, and then ultimately making it into being delivered through salvation, all right, and changed, you know. That's going to be how Esau got people learning about these George Washington and this in history and that in history, or the history that's going to be taught about, all right, in the kingdom of heaven is the history of the elect, man. You see, in their walk and their life, all right, and following Yahushua, you know what I'm saying, and being changed, man. You see, that's going to be taught. Yahushua, you know, like it says in Micah chapter 4, you see, everything is going to go forth from Israel, man. You see, the whole earth is going to know, and they're going to see, going back into the point that I want to make in this Zephaniah. I'm going to read that one more time. All right, this is Zephaniah chapter 3. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start up a little bit. I'm going to start at verse 14. It says, "Sing, O daughter of Zion, shout, O Israel." It says, "Be glad and rejoice with all the heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. The Lord hath taken away thy judgments. He hath cast out thine enemies. The King of Israel, even the Lord, is in the midst of thee. Thou shalt not see evil again." Right. The scriptures talk about it there in Deuteronomy chapter 30, how the Lord is going to turn our captivities, man. All right. He's going to change, and we're going, and we're transit. We see that transition and taking place right now, and it all starts with the preaching of this gospel. You see, and in the awakening of the elect. All right, in these end times, that's going to call the transition of like it says in the book of what is it, Sirach, chapter 10. You see, talks about that. You know that paradigm shift, man. You see, but continuing on, it says, verse 16. It says, in that day, it shall be said to Jerusalem, fear thou not, and to Zion, let not thy hands be slack. The Lord thy God is in the midst of thee. The Lord thy God in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing. I will gather them that are sorrowful for the solemn assembly. It says, who are of thee, to whom the reproach of it was a burden. Right. Matter of fact, let me go to Zephaniah. Let me see what it says in the NLT. Salakia. This is Zechariah Salakia. Let's see what it says in the NLT. What verse was that? Okay, verse 18, it says, I will gather you who mourn for the appointed festivals. You will be disgraced no more. It says, I'm going to jump back to the KJV. In verse 19, it says, behold, at that time I will undo all that afflict thee. I will save her that halted and gather her that was driven out. It says, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. And right. And our people have been put to shame in every land that we've been scattered unto. But the same way that we're put to shame, the Lord is going to also show what? All right, that transformation, you see? That shift from us being at the bottom to what our rise, man. You see, so let's go to the book of Baruch. Matter of fact, let's go to the book of Baruch real quick. Matter of fact, I'm getting the NLT. I'm in the GNT, Salakia. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 4. Let's see. Because like it said, man, in these same places, I'm going to read that last part of verse Zephaniah chapter 3 in verse 19. It says, and I will save her that halted, and I will gather her that was driven out, and I will get them praise and fame in every land where they have been put to shame. So keep that in mind, how in every land we will put to shame, but the Lord is going to give us fame in those lands. This is Baruch chapter 4 and verse 24 in the GNT. It says, just as the neighboring cities watched as you were taken captives, so they will soon see the eternal God coming in glory. His glory, it's like it says, coming in glorious splendor to rescue you. You see? So these same nations are going to see, all right, how the Lord is going to how the Lord is going to save his people, man, and beautify him. All right. Let's go to chapter. Let me see. I'm gonna keep slacking. Let's keep going. Verse 25. It says, my children, all right, endure God's punishment with patience. Your enemies have persecuted you, but you will soon see them destroyed at your mercy. Right. You see, so these same people that's, you know what I'm saying, that afflicted us, you know what I'm saying, are gonna be done away with. But let's go to Baruch chapter 5 and verse 3. It says, matter of fact, should I start up? I'll start at the top. Baruch 5:1 in the GNT. Jerusalem, take off the clothes you have worn in your mourning and distress, and put on the eternal splendor of God's glory. Put around you the cloak of God's righteousness. Place on your head the crown of the glory of the eternal God. But this is the point. God will show your splendor to every nation on earth. Right? They're going to see it. You see, they're going to see that fame. All right. They're going to see that Yahweh Shem Yahushai is dealing with us, man. All right. I think it's in the book of Isaiah chapter 45. It says, well, these nations, Egypt and all of them are going to come and they're going to say, surely the Lord God is in you. You know, they're going to see it, man. All right. Let me see if I got something else real quick. Let's go to Psalms chapter 113. Psalms chapter 113 and verse 7 in the NLT. It says, he lifts up the poor from the dust and the needy from the garbage dumps. From the garbage dump, right, you see? And that's going to be the whole transition. Because like I said, right now, it tells you that our people have been compared to earthen vessels. Man, what book is that in, man? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, how is the gold become dim? How is the most fine gold changed? Right. It says the stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the works of the hands of a potter? Right. You see, showing you the change, how the Lord cast us down. You see, but they same casting, like we're reading about, the Lord is he's going to flip that, man. All right. And these same lands that, you know, we've been put to shame, the Lord is going to give us fame. All right. And all the earth is going to know it, just like the first time when the Lord delivered us from Egypt during the Exodus, man. All right. It tells you that in Joshua 2 that and what's her name? Rahab. She talked about it, man. We heard about what your God did. You see, we heard about how he split the Red Sea, how he did this and did that. You see what else? It tells you in Isaiah that the Lord is going to set his hand a second time. All right. To recover the remnant of people and him setting his hand a second time is going to go into that second exodus out of this current Egypt, this spiritual Egypt, according to Revelations chapter 11 and verse 8, man. You see, and it's going to far outdo, all right, that first exodus, man. You see, because this time our people were led out, all right, by that chariot, but this time our people are going to go up into those chariots and be changed, man. Be changed to something else, something the world never seen before. You see, and we're going to be like our big brother, man. All right. But yeah, I just want to make that point real quick because, hey, man, we know, you know, Michael Jackson he's if not the most famous person on the planet Earth, man. And in this age, in this time, man, everybody knows him. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, of course, Yahweh Shah. I'm just speaking of, you know, people, you know, Michael, you know. Everybody want to be like Mike, man. You see, but that fame it ain't nothing compared to what Yahweh Shai and his man are going to have in the kingdom. All right. And we're already preaching that praise of Yahweh Shai in this time. You see, and it's going to carry along into the kingdom. Matter of fact, let me see if I got one more and I'll end it off. Let's see. All right. This is Tobit chapter 13 in verse 3 in the GNT. It says, people of Israel, give thanks among the nations where he sent you into exile. Even there he showed his great power. It says, let all who live hear you praise. The Lord is our God and the Father forever. Though he punished you for your wickedness, he will be merciful and bring you home from among the nations where he scattered you. Right. You see, and all these people are going to see it, man. It talks about how the Lord is going to bring us back in splendor, man. Let me see. I know it's in Baruch chapter 4. Or is it in chapter 5? Let me see. right, so let's get this real quick. This is Baruch chapter 5 and verse I started verse 5. It says, "Get up, Jerusalem, stand on the mountaintop, see where God, the Holy One, is bringing your children together from the east and from the west. They are rejoicing that God has remembered them. Jerusalem, your children were led away by their enemies. They left you on, it's like it says, they left you on foot, but God will bring them back to you carried in royal splendor." Right, you see? So the Israel is gonna be put back in their rightful place, and it's gonna be, you know what I'm saying, something that the earth never seen before, man. All right. The bride is gonna be beautified, you know what I'm saying? And when the elect come back down, that coming out that chamber announces what? All right, that's the bride, you know what I'm saying? They you know, and it's gonna be solidified that consummation is gonna be you know, that's going to be the consummation that's going up into them chariots, man, and being changed with our Lord and coming back down. What and now that showed what when the bride and the groom they would go into the chambers, what they would consummate the marriage, and they would come out, and it would be published. Okay, now that day, that's his wife, they husband and wife, man. It's going to be seen then, you know. But it says God has commanded that every high mountain and that every everlasting hill shall be made low. He has commanded that the valley shall be filled with the field and the ground leveled, so that the people of Israel may come safely home in the glory of God. It says, and at the command of God, forests of fragrant trees will spring up to provide shade for the people of Israel. It says, God will lead Israel home. They will return with great joy, guided by his mercy and righteousness, surrounded by the light of his glorious presence. So I don't want to make this too long. Lord, when this lesson was edifying, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Wadash. The honors unto the apostles, the great millstone, and teaching with well, and as always, peace and salutation to the elect. Shalom.